Thank you for listening to the Mujeres Create podcast. I hope you enjoy this next conversation. Hady, welcome to the Mujeres Create podcast. I am so happy that you're here. We actually met each other on social media not too long ago as I was launching my podcast. And you happened to be promoting your new book, Calladita No More, a title that I absolutely love. And as I started to follow you, I said to myself, I want to talk to her. I want to know more about this book. I want to know more about her story. She definitely seems like the type of woman that I love interviewing on the show, una mujer creadora. So I wanted to thank you for being here. And I wanted to kick off the conversation by just you telling us more about you, who you are, where you're coming from, and what led you to writing this book, Calladita No More.
I'm Hady. I'll start there because no one knows how to say my name. So that's like my life's challenge is to just get people to say it right. So it's Hady, like ha 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 Hady. And
I love it.
Yeah, and I'm the baby in my family. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a Boricua, New York-Rican. I have 3 older sisters, so they were 4 girls growing up together. In Brooklyn, in 70s, 80s is when I grew up. I like technology, so I ended up it was fortuitous that like technology was really becoming a thing as I was getting older. Or like when I was in high school, I majored in computer science. When I was in college, I majored in computer information systems. And then I ended up just having a very long career, over 25 years, at the intersection of technology and financial services. So those are the 2 things that kind of, I guess, cuadraron conmigo. Like I like those 2 things. I was a missioner for like 2 years, which is kind of I think a fun fact about myself. I lived and served in Cochabamba, Bolivia.
Wow.
And I talk about that in the book, as you
Yes.
know, or maybe you haven't got to a chapter yet, but I talk about it extensively in the book. I love podcasts.
Yay.
And I actually was a published author many moons ago. So when I was in high school, I joined the program at a local library when I lived in Queens. And they had un programa para, young people, like a certain age group. And it was, I was in high school at the time. And it was a bilingual program. So we wrote like poems and little short stories in English and Spanish. And the book was called Mi Primera Aventura, my first adventure.
Qué lindo.
And it was a book that was co-written by a bunch of us. It was like maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 of us. I don't know, maybe more. And there was the guy who like kind of, I guess, led us, who was the facilitator, was a Cuban poet. I want to say his name was Jose, but I don't remember his last name. But this guy, we just met with him every week, and he would give us different prompts, and we would write stuff. And so I published a book a long time ago.
I love it.
And then now I get to write my own little book, Calladita No More, with my girl that I love so much.
Yes.
Why did I write the book?
Yes.
I got to a point in my career, and it has to do with, I got laid off like 2 years ago. And I think that was a big inflection point for me. And once I got laid off and had a hard time getting a new job, and I never officially got a new job. I just ended up starting my own company. But I think that was when I realized that I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that has happened. And, I've learned a la mala, voy a decir a la mala, to navigate certain situations. And because of that, I was like, I feel like I got to somehow find a way to share all of this because I think other people could benefit from this.
Right.
And I would rather that they learn it from me at an early age than to have to go through it themselves. Like that's always, I think you're wiser when you learn from someone else's experience than you're like, oh, let me live it on my own. It's like, well, that's a really hard experience. And I'm talking about lots of different hard experiences. It's like, I'd rather a person have the opportunity to read about it, kind of, understand or glean a little bit from my own lived experience, and then maybe say, well, I'll do it a little different now that I know that there's a different way that I could, kind of come at this and maybe have a different outcome. And that's what I really want for our younger Latinas, younger women of color, people who are just coming out.
Yeah.
I don't want them to have to go through what I went through because it wasn't fun. And I think, I talk about it in the book, and it's like, for a long time it was about me, but now it's about us. And I see a much bigger picture now.
Yes. And, I do think that, especially after the pandemic, so many people feel alone in their career decisions, navigating so much change after the pandemic and throughout their careers. Latinas, there's not a lot of us, especially in tech spaces, in the financial sector,
Yeah.
very little representation. I come from a media background, and even there's a little bit more representation, but still not much. So when we're able to tell stories, and that's similar to you, the reason why I wanted to create this podcast is because I wanted to share these kinds of stories so that women can say, you know what, Hady wrote a book, I can write a book. She talked about her stories, I can do the same.
Yes.
And so that's the whole point of sharing your knowledge and sharing your wisdom with others, is to inspire them to go and do the same.
1,000%. Yeah, and that's my last chapter. It says, now it's your turn. Ahora it's your turn.
Ahora it's your turn.
Ahora it's your turn.
Yes.
And that's the invitation, is to say, well, now you get a chance to look back and reflect at what you've learned from the people you've encountered, from the situations you've lived. And like, what do you want to take away from that? And what do you want to share with others?
Yes.
So it's this constant, like, we're learning from each other kind of vibe. And I like that a lot.
The things that I love so much about your book is that every chapter, you've decided to kind of start it with a refrán. Popular refrán, every country in Latin America has their own refranes. These are the refranes that your mom passed down to you. And I just love that you started every chapter with a refrán. So I wanted to structure the questions for this conversation with a refrán that you have used. So the first one I wanted to ask is, si no sabes de dónde vienes, no sabrás a dónde vas. If you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going.
Yep.
Can you share more about this chapter? Your thoughts on the importance of Latinas, for us to really know ourselves and to be rooted in who we are before we outline those big goals and really know where we're going with our lives and obviously our dreams and our futures.
Personally, it was a long journey for me. So it's, I always knew I was Latina. I always knew I was like Puerto Rican, Boricua, New York-Rican, all those things. But it didn't really mean a lot for a long time. Like, I was like, I know that I'm a little different. Maybe I have a different kind of last name, or maybe, my parents talk Spanish, or we eat different food, or listen to different music. But I think it's more than that also. It's like, how we're raised, sort of the belief system that's passed down, and sometimes it's limiting beliefs, unfortunately, so like that's the reality of the situation. Lessons, like the refranes is wisdom. So it's like, and what I love about refranes and why I'm especially like excited to have used them in the book is that, my parents didn't go to college. They didn't have professions. I start off the book saying, my mother never had a college degree. She didn't have a credit card. She didn't have like bank accounts. But my mom was the one that taught me to be like a strong and powerful woman. And I feel like, even like I think back to my abuela, and my abuela's like, I don't even think those people graduated from high school. Like, education was like a privilege, really, in those, back in the day. And a lot of our ancestors, I don't think, had the privilege of, finishing school or, getting in, degrees or advanced degrees. And so, but there's still something we can learn from them. And that's their regalito, if you will, their gift to us is like this wisdom. And it's like, I know me, like, if you ever like spend time with me, I'm gonna bring up a refrán like every couple of minutes, because it's just like every situation, like you're like, oh, this is perfect. This is a reflection of this refrán. And so I have always kind of been like that. And I was like, well, eso como un homenaje, like it's honoring that wisdom that they passed down to us. And also acknowledging that you don't have to have, especially in our culture, the American culture I'm talking about, we're so wrapped up in like, how many degrees do you have? And are you a PhD? And no shade to anybody who has a PhD or a master's. That's great. I'm, really happy for you. And it's like a big deal because you probably worked really hard for it. But not everybody has that opportunity, but we can still learn from them. They still have wisdom to pass to us. And this is honoring that.
Absolutely.
And that was like a big part of this, was honoring that.
It's so beautiful. I was telling you that I was just with my grandmother this weekend. She has Alzheimer's, but she still has, some of her memory. And the things that she remembers is the refranes. She's the queen of refranes. And I was telling her this last night, I was like, Grandma, you're the smartest person I know. And she was like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't even know how to write. My grandma doesn't know how to read or write.
Yeah.
But she immigrated to this country when she was 44 years old, the same age that I have right now. And she managed to bring 8 children over from the Dominican Republic and figure out a language, New York City, making money,
And look at her.
and look at her granddaughter.
Yeah.
And, you know, thinking about that legacy, I think is really beautiful that you kind of brought your mother to the book in this way. And I love the Refranes. So thank you for that gift.
Thank you.
One next chapter that I would love to talk about, because I know that a lot of what is here in this book is your corporate experiences and like what you learned in those corporate spaces as you were navigating, you know, difficulty and challenges, and often being the only Latina. A mal tiempo, buena cara. When things get rough, smile.
Yeah.
Can you share maybe one or two of the hardest moments for you in your career and how you navigated that?
So first I'll say, yeah, I love that refrán. I think it's so appropriate for so many situations and circumstances. And it's not about like toxic positivity, although it kind of like is right on the cusp of it. But it's just like, you just gotta almost like fake it till you make it,
Yes.
or like kind of remain positive despite, you know, an obstacle, barrier, challenge, and just like, you got to figure out how to overcome it. You can't like give up is essentially kind of what I take from that. And I live that. I feel like I'm embody that quite a bit. And I know so many of us who do. So one I talked about it a few minutes ago, which was my layoff. I got laid off in 2023. I was the head of equality for a major tech company, you know, más o menos un dream job. And, you know, I got laid off pretty, you know, rather suddenly. Like it was just like, hi, you just got an email and now you don't have any,
Wow.
you no longer have access to the systems. And, you know, as of tal día, you're no longer an employee, and, you know, we're going to mail you an envelope and mail back the laptop. So it was kind of like that. It was in the modern day of layoffs where it's not even a person telling you. You're just reading about it in an email and everything is already gone. By the time you read the email, you don't even have access anymore. So that was a challenging moment. And I would say that, you know, it's interesting because I remember when I got it, that was the textbook definition of bittersweet, because it was like a very hard job that I was in at that moment, even though it was a job that I really wanted. It was a challenging job because of the circumstances. And so I was having a hard time with that position and, you know, aligning with the idea or the vision that senior management had for what I was supposed to be doing, and, you know, compared to what I thought I was supposed to be doing. So there was a little bit of a misalignment. So because of that challenge, a part of me was like, yay, I don't have to do this anymore. But then the other part of me was like, how am I, you know, like, oh my God, I'm laid off and I got to find a new job. And, you know, this job was like, you know, had the potential for a lot of really great possibility. Am I going to be able to, you know, get another job? Especially in the market we were finding ourselves in that moment. Like it was the beginning of a lot of layoffs. So that was really hard. And I would say that, you know, I went to Puerto Rico for a month and a half. I started off by going to a wellness retreat. And like I was como Dios, you know, Dios sabe lo que hace.
Sí.
So I ended up being the only guest in that retreat house. So everybody just attended to me. So me cocinaron para mí.
Wow.
They did massage for me. They did morning yoga for me, walk on the
You
beach for
needed
me.
that.
I was like como una princesa. And then I hung out with my cousin and her family for like another, you know, month plus. So I feel like that was the beginning of me saying, you know, because that was right after I got laid off. And that was the beginning of me saying, okay, well, now it's time for me. I'm going to heal myself. I'm going to heal myself from like the toxicity and the, you know, anything harmful that I was experiencing. It was time to heal. And so I don't know, like, I feel like that was such a good first step. And that was putting a buena cara on it. Then I started my company, and I started the company, but I was still looking for work. And then after a couple of months, I was like, you know what? This work thing ain't happening. So I think God is telling me that it's the business. So I'm going to go all in on the business. And, you know, even to this day, you know, I do DEI work. So DEI has a big target on its head. And it has been really hard to like have steady business in the way that I would like it as a business owner. And so, but I've had to put on my game face the whole time and just be like, I got to keep going. I got to hustle. I got like a part-time job. I ended up working on the side at Athleta for the first year that I was in business so that I could just make a little extra money to pay my bills. And it was, all of that was that buena cara. Like I was like, you know what? No me voy a dar por vencida. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to put my game face on and I'm going to push through this. And 2.5 years later, I'm still here. And let me tell you, well, I don't need to tell you, but I'm going to tell the audience. For anybody who's starting a business or who's thinking about it, those first 2 or 3 years, I think are the worst ones. And I every day wanted to give up and I couldn't. I couldn't for a lot of reasons, mostly financial. And I think the buena cara thing was what was behind, in my head the whole time, was just like, keep going, put your game face on, don't let people see you sweat. You gotta put your best foot forward.
So many people can relate to that story because a lot of layoffs happen, not only during the pandemic, but in 2023, last year, even today, they're happening. All of a sudden, you wake up and you go check your computer and it's gone. Your role is eliminated.
Yeah.
I was also in a DEI role prior to leaving corporate. And I know exactly what you're talking about, the alignment of you want to do this work and you feel very passionate for this work.
Yes.
And the company's not necessarily there. It's not our priority.
Yeah.
Everybody's defunding DEI. So they kind of, so it's a lot of responsibility on you because employees of color are looking to you.
Exactly. You're like literally caught in the middle. And you're like, what they need because it's loud and clear.
It's loud and clear.
It's not even a question.
Yes.
But they don't, but like it feels like senior management doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And so like you're literally caught in the middle. And it broke my heart, to be honest with you, to be in a situation like that because I knew what was happening and I knew what the leadership, like that my ERG leaders needed and everybody was abundantly clear. And it wasn't like, como que no estaba cuadrando.
Sí, lo mismo me pasó a mí, but I love the buena cara part. You literally just kept going and refused to give up and found time to reinvent yourself and be an entrepreneur. And now you're doing amazing work to women and people that need it. And look, you wrote a book. I wrote a book. Talk about winning and turning something negative into a huge positive. Yeah. So congratulations to you for that resilience. So moving into community, one of the chapters of the book that I love because I'm also very community focused. I like to give back. I like to align myself with organizations that are focused on women, giving back in some way. Hoy por ti, mañana por mí. Today, I help you. Tomorrow, hopefully you can help me.
Yeah.
Tell us about your focus on community building and why you think Latinos need to, think about, giving back and not only giving back, but uplifting underserved groups because there's a lot of underserved groups in our community.
So first I'll say about Hoy por ti, mañana por mí. That is truly something that I live by. And it's funny because I'm part of Lean in Latinas, which is like this amazing organization for women. And we just had our conference. And I hosted a workshop called Networking for Jefas. And what I explained to them is like, I think part of what we do wrong when we approach networking is we're like sizing up people and being like, oh, what does Yesenia do? Okay, I could be on her podcast. How else could Yesenia help me? And I believe that's the wrong way of looking at it. Like, I feel like first and foremost, just be like, what are you building and how can I help you? Start there and then know that it's like, it's a flow. And if it's authentic, like partnership and relationship, it will be. There are some people who use you and that's happened. And I talk about it in the book and there's a line that says sometimes it be your own people and your own friends that use you as a stepping stone. And it's true. Like there are some people like that even in our own communities. So we have to be careful and we have to guard against that. But when there is true, like we have a shared mission, it can be quite beautiful to be like, okay, come be on my show, and then I'm going to do a live with you, and then we're going to do an article together, and then we're going to, do an event together, at that conference. And, and it's just like, there's no end to the possibilities of us partnering together. So that's what I love. But talking about like community building community in our community in particular, I mean, the way I see it is that I don't think that a lot of people are going to show up for us. So I talk about this in the book too. So I feel like the assignment is for us to show up for each other, because there may not be a lot of people showing up for us. So when we are in a leadership position, when we are in a position of influence, when we are in a position of power, we have to use it to amplify our voices and elevate our own people. So it's like, if you see a little Yesenia or a little Hady who just joined the company, or just, joined the community that you're part of, or that you've stumbled across at an event or conference or whatever, take an interest and be like, what are you doing? How can I help? How can I support you? What are you up to? I don't know so much of like you need a mentor, but like if someone approaches me and says, hey, like, can you come talk to my college class, or can you be my mentor? Can you be my coach? Or can I meet with you for like half an hour and, just get to know you? Whatever the ask is, usually I'm quite open to it, because I know that not a lot of people are going to show up for us. I know it because I didn't have a lot of people showing up for me. And I know that a lot of times I felt invisible in the rooms that I was in, or I felt like ignored, dismissed. Like I would say something and the people would be like, okay, next, anybody else have an idea? And it was like, I thought I just had an idea. And not to mention that sometimes you have a good idea and people poo-poo it, and then someone else says it and they're like, what a great idea,
Happens all the time.
Yeah, and that happened to me. And I fortunately did have people who were like, I'm pretty sure Hady said that 5 minutes ago, or I'm pretty sure that was what Hady said when she, when it was her turn. So yeah, I do I think my main message around showing up for each other is based on the fact that I don't think a lot of other people are going to show up for us. So we should really show up for each other. And hopefully that's going to change over time. My hope, but I also feel like everybody kind of feels a little victim-y right now, so it's like everyone wants to have a little love and attention. And so that being said, then let's make sure that at least we're delivering what our community needs, and making sure that we're paying attention to the things that our community needs. So again, I think back to my role at Lead in Latinas, and one of the things that we're about to do is a safe space for, living, dealing with uncertainty in our life. And it's just like, that is a reality that a lot of us are experiencing, that a lot of us are navigating. I try to stay close to what the issues are that our community needs, because again, I just don't know that anyone else is paying attention to that. So we need to pay attention to that, especially if we are in a position where we can really influence that. Another commentary, I'll say, your ride or dies. When people are always there for you, you remember who showed up for you.
Especially in these times.
You remember who showed up for you, who made an introduction, who helped you, who just made you Hady, no, girl, you got this. You're so good at that. Keep going. Mira que había gente that had to do that because yo estaba totalmente very disillusioned, and so heartbroken, and I was grieving, and I was feeling a lot of feelings, and I never forget the people who stood by me and encourage me. Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget that you said yes to my podcast, even when I only have 300 followers.
Oh no,
it's growing. It's growing.
Yeah,
Thank you, Hady. Another chapter that I want to talk about is El que busca encuentra.
Yeah.
And this chapter is about finding your purpose and aligning with that. We talked about how you got to a place where you wanted to do different work, and you started to do that different work. O quizás desde niña you were kind of aligned with this type of work. But how did you do it? For women who are looking for that, how do you do it in a 1, 2, 3? What are those early steps that one must take?
Before I tell you that, it's so funny that you say about if I knew it when I was a kid. When I was little, I used to say that I was going to be a writer and a social worker.
Oh my God.
So that was, I mean, I'm not either. Well, I guess I'm a writer now. It feels weird to say that, but I was going to say I'm neither of those things. But even the social worker part, I'm not a social worker, but I have definitely done social work because I've volunteered in a prison with women. I was a community school director at an elementary school in the South Bronx. I work with the families and the children there. So I definitely have done social work type of work. So it's interesting. But anyway, how do you do it? I think a lot of it is being very introspective. So like reflecting on the things that you love, the things that you're passionate about. I know that it's hard to see that when you're younger, because I would say that, oh man, my 20s were rough. My 20s, yo siempre estaba like hungry for something. It was like in my body, but in my soul too. I was like, what is it? What am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
Like, because trust me.
Ese espíritu de lucha, tú lo tenías.
Yes, because yo me metí como consultant when I graduated from school. Y, you know, it wasn't like a bad job, pero it didn't feed my spirit. Eso era un trabajo seco, you know, que no tenía...
Yeah.
It didn't feed the things that I'm passionate about. So I had to learn to find ways to dig into, like to feed my passion even in a workplace. So sometimes I've had to work at places where, you know, they do like ERG work and they do like a lot of work in the communities, or they have foundations, or they do a lot of like mentoring and leadership programs and stuff like that. So it's like anything that's like about professional development or like employee engagement. Those are the things that I like. So I always used to do those things like on the side. And, you know, a través del tiempo, I realized that I'm like, I actually prefer that. And I'm very good at it, because people always used to tell me, they're like, girl, you are good at that. Like I used to run the Big Brother, Big Sister program at my job. And it was like, no, they didn't pay me for that. Like my job was my job, but that was like a little side hustle that I had, that they were like, can you do it? Can you be the site lead? And I'm like, okay. And I used to like, you know, help coordinate the Christmas party. And
I used to be a big sister.
it was such we had a really nice time. And the people who were part of that, I love those kind of employee engagement opportunities, because you meet people outside of your team and you really get to build friendships with people that are more like you, that share like a little passion like you do. So yeah, I made so many good friends in that program, and some other program like ERG stuff that I did as well. But so back to your question, I would say, what are you passionate about? What are the things that are the common thread across a lot of the jobs that you've had, or the things that you've done as volunteer work or whatever? Like, as an example, when I was in Bolivia for 2 years as a missioner, I was working in a women's prison, and I was running a support group there. That's what I decided that I would do for free, because no one was paying me. And I love doing that. That's like my favorite thing to do, is to build community and to bring people together and to lift people up. Y animar a la gente, you know, motivate them, inspire them, like que no te puede dar por vencida. Like you gotta, you know, and you in jail. That's like, you
talk about adversity and
if you're gonna give up,
and limitation, you literally can't get out of there. And I love that work that you did, because those are communities that are very forgotten. And not nurtured or invested in or not understood. Every person in there has a story, and you investing time and giving back to those communities, so beautiful.
Yeah, and I think the most important part of that work was not being judgmental about it, because it's literally judging people in maybe what was one of the worst decisions they made in their life, but they could have made a lot of really good decisions.
Right.
And so that was just the worst one, or a really bad one they made, or a mistake they made, and you can't judge people just based on a mistake that was made. So I got to know them, and they were my friends, and I talk about it in the book.
Yes,
they were my friends. We used to celebrate birthdays. They used to give me hugs. They were like my panas. But to finish off the thought on how do you find your purpose, I talked about what are your passions. I talked about what's the common thread. And then I would say the last thing is like, what would you do for free? Like, because I did do it for free. And so it was like every time I had an opportunity to do any community service, or even in my mission work, I was always either working with women or working with children, or working with women that had children, or something with women and children and empowerment. And that was the common thread always in stuff that I do.
I love that. And I feel like we're soul sisters, because I love all the things that you are describing. And for me, a big part of, I'm still trying to find my purpose, but I love uplifting. I love motivating. I love mentoring. I love doing this podcast for free. I mean, nadie me paga por hacer esto hasta ahora, but I think it's just finding like what brings you joy, what motivates you to get up in the morning, and then finding a way eventually to make some money and like live, you know, freely in a way that is purposeful to you and intentional.
Yeah, I think you have to be okay with that being maybe a little side job or like a little hustle until you can find a way to transition into making it like your real job.
Exactly.
And I've had it as my real job a number of times, including now. But now is like I get to do whatever I want. And for me, the value is fun, passion, and like really feeling a purpose.
Priceless.
So if that's my checklist. So it's like, okay, if those three things are not happening, then it's out.
Priceless.
Yeah.
And another chapter that I love, especially for this podcast, is Mujer Take Up Space. Camarón que se duerme, se lo lleva la corriente. I don't even know how we translate that. But talk to us about that chapter and how can women take up more space? Si estás en casa, too afraid, too calladita, how can we take up space?
Yeah. So first I'll start off with like what is the translation of that? I feel like camarón que duerme se lo lleva la corriente is kind of like if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss opportunities.
You're going to be swept away by the waves.
You're going to literally be swept away. So I think that's kind of, it's like don't sleep on it. Because,
exactly.
And to that end, you have to be like alert and you have to also be ready. I talk a lot about in the book about staying ready, having a positive mindset, processing your failures and the things that, like the things that make you triste. Like, when you have a setback, you can't get stuck in the setback because then you're not creating space for like opportunity and things that are going to come your way. So I think a lot of Mujer Take Up Space has to do with staying ready, has to do with also like literally taking up space. Like I talk about in the book, walking into a room and like being like, good morning.
Yes.
I'm here.
Buenos días.
Buenos días. Yeah.
Gracias.
And some people, you'd be surprised. Some people, they don't want to acknowledge you.
Right.
For probably reasons that have more to do with them than with you, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
But sometimes it has something to do with you. But I think most of the time, it's not even related to you. It's just sort of what you represent.
Absolutely.
And I feel like as Latinas and as women of color, people that are like the onlys or like the few, some people actually don't really want us in these rooms. They don't want us having input and making decisions. They don't want us to have influence. They don't want us to have power. Like, that's kind of what this country is going through right now. It's like, who is going to end up with power? At the end of everything that we're going through, that is the fears of who has had power and who is going to get the power is what is fueling everything in this country right now. And so for me to say that like some people don't want us to have power, I don't really think I'm being like that, like provocative. Like that is fact.
Yeah.
And so, when you take up space, it's that physical space, but it's also like, hold up. And this I never did. Cuando yo era jovencita, I would hear something and I was like, I don't really disagree. I don't really agree with that, but I don't know if I'm going to say something.
Te quedabas calladita.
Calladita. And yo no soy, and I'm not like a calladita personality, like never have been. Pero I also grew up with another dicho, and I can't remember if it's in the book or not. I don't think it is. En boca cerrada no entra mosca. Like my mother was just gonna be like, zip it, So it was like, sometimes, so that's a limiting belief that was not a good one to carry with me. But I was like, well, I'm gonna piss somebody off. I'm gonna maybe become somebody that people don't like.
Yeah.
I'm gonna maybe get punished later. They'll be like, oh, really? That's what you think? So how about this now?
Yeah.
So I never really felt comfortable speaking up and taking up the space that, if you're invited into a room, technically people want to hear what you have to say. And I think we miss that opportunity when we sit there and we question about whether we should be saying things, or we filter it, or we're, we're like censoring our own self. It's not even the people are doing it to us. We're doing it to ourselves. We're the ones.
And, I think taking up space extends outside of the workplace. When you are someone who is holding your ideas, your thoughts, your fears to yourself, and you don't speak up, it just holds you back in all areas of your life.
1,000%.
How are you going to stand up to do the things that you actually want? As an oldest daughter myself, a lot of the times I felt that I couldn't speak up. I was afraid to say too much, or I had to be likable and I had to be agreeable. And now that I'm outside of corporate, that I can be myself and not as likable because I speak up now, and not as agreeable because I don't have to agree with everything you're saying.
Yep.
People don't like that. And so we need to just be a little bit more assertive with ourselves and say, I'm going to take up space today and every day.
Yes.
Because this is my life, and this is what it takes for me to go after the things that I want. So I love that chapter.
So you bring up a really good point, which is that when you don't speak up, you are actually sometimes holding yourself back.
Right.
So like there's something I talk about, which is someone I worked with, I used to work with, got a promotion. And I asked that person, like, hey, how'd you get the promotion? And they were like, oh, I just got it. Like, I found out in my performance review. I was like, oh, that's dope. Cool. I'm going to get a promotion then because I'm doing really good work. And I didn't get it. Entonces, yo estaba bien dudosa whether I should bring that up with my manager. And I almost didn't say anything. But in the end, I said, well, no, I'm going to ask because I'm curious to know how come I didn't get it. And he was like, oh, we never talked about it. And I was like, I heard that you didn't talk about it with Fulano either, but like Fulano still got it. They're like, oh no, well, whatever. Like you never said you wanted. And I was like, I thought that was such a like cop out, but I said, okay, that's the game we're playing. I'm going to play that game too.
Yes.
So now ever since then, every time I started a job and I met with my manager during my one-on-ones, I was like, my goal is to get promoted in the next 12 to 18 months. Can we talk about what I need to do in order for that to happen? And I was like, never again. That is not going to happen to me again because de verdad que...
I know.
And so the lack of me speaking up on my behalf isn't just that I don't contribute to a better solution, which is true. Like, if we don't say something, maybe we have a unique perspective and we hold out on speaking up. Maybe the product or the solution or the service is not as good as it can be. So that's how it affects the company.
Yeah.
But how it affects us personally is that maybe we don't get as much money, or maybe we don't get our promotion in time, or maybe we don't get a good assignment, or maybe we don't get to work with a customer that we want to work with, or maybe we don't get to, be part of a committee that we want to be part of, or part of a board, or part of anything.
Yeah.
So it, and como que me cansé
Claro.
watching other people get the things they wanted, and I wasn't getting the things I wanted. And I learned a través del tiempo that if I didn't say anything, I wasn't going to get it. So the least I could do on my own behalf was to take up the space and say what I wanted. Yeah. That doesn't mean I got everything, but I got more things than I got when I kept my mouth shut.
The most uncomfortable thing is to speak up the first time. You're shaking, you don't know what to say. But then after you do that, you're like, okay, next time is easier. And it's easier. It gets easier, right? Just speak up for yourself.
I think it does get easier. And I would also say that sometimes, in order to advocate for yourself, you need fertile soil. So you need someone who's willing to receive it. And sometimes I have encountered people that didn't want to hear it.
Right.
Like the toxic place that I worked at. They didn't want to hear it. They were like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And that's when maybe it's time to move on.
Yes.
And that's another thing that I talk about in the book, that I've worked in places where I overstayed my welcome because I didn't get the hint. Como que no tenía, I didn't get it. Or I got the hint, pero se toma tiempo sometimes to find another job.
Claro.
So it's not like you could just be like, oh, this is not working out. I think I need a new job. But sometimes it's like a pattern. And you're like, okay, it's been like 5 times now that I've tried to advocate for myself, and all 5 times I got shut down. So now I can say, sin duda, that I probably need to find another team to work on or another manager to work for, because I don't think this is a good fit.
And you make that decision.
Yeah. So you also can't just be like, oh, I tried one time and it didn't work. I also, I don't think that's the best method either. I think you got to give it a chance. And like you said, sometimes you're nervous, so maybe you're not that good at it the first time, but like over time you get better. And then, or maybe you, tanto que tal, maybe you do end up getting across, coming across and getting them to see your point of view. So sometimes you got to like say it 3 times.
Yeah.
But I would say, there comes a point, and everyone's going to have to decide for themselves what that point is. Yeah. I feel it in my belly sometimes where I'm like, I think it's a wrap.
Es hora.
Yeah, es hora.
Es hora. Hady, this has been amazing. As we near the end of the conversation, I want to just show the book here. This beautiful cover, very colorful. And the last chapter of the book, ahora it's your turn.
Yeah.
Ya te puedes casar, which is something that we all Dominicans also say. Talk to us about the call to action at the end.
The call to action is really for anybody who reads the book. And I hope it is lots of people, not just Latinas and not just women of color. I really hope it's everybody. But everybody does have sort of a story to tell, lessons to share, ways that they can pass down wisdom and learnings to the next generation. So like just how the Refranes helped us, my hope is that we can do that for future generations. And so I don't want us to keep our stories and our learnings and our lessons and I don't want us to keep it to ourselves because, the beauty of like getting that learning is to be able to get other people to learn from it too. So it's like, that was a really difficult thing I learned. I absolutely want other people never to have to go through that. 1,000%. And I don't forget where I come from. I think that's another important thing is like, I do feel like, I know that we have it hard. I know that as, women of color, communities of color, other underestimated people, we already have a hard enough experience. We're already getting paid less than everybody. We already are not getting promoted at the same rate. We already are not present or represented in senior leadership. All those things are already the case. So why not make the load a little lighter? Yes. And I feel like that is what I'm trying to achieve through the invitation that I make.
The younger generations in front of us right now are facing different challenges, right? Post-pandemic. And they need a lot of mentorship. They need a lot of guidance. And so passing on the learnings, if you find this book, share it with other people. Word of mouth is very powerful. Promote it, like give some support because this literature is very necessary in our community. And just like you wrote a book, so many more women will be feeling empowered to write or to create, in a different way.
I hope so.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. As I mentioned before, I love these type of stories of, women who find their voice, who use it, more importantly, and who use it to uplift others and to help and to send a message of hope and to create a better way for other women to accomplish their goals. So thank you so much for writing this beautiful book. When does it come out?
So the book comes out September 15th, and it's available in hardcover, paperback, there's a digital version of it, the ebook, and then there's an audiobook version, which I personally narrated. So get that one. Get any one you want, but definitely make sure you get the audiobook because I narrated it and I had so much fun with that.
Tell us about the writing experience and the publishing and all the people behind the book.
The book cover was designed by a woman from Argentina.
Oh.
And 70% of the people that worked on my book were Latina.
Oh, I love that.
So that's kind of a big deal for me. My two editors were Latina, my PR coach, my media manager, my street team coordinator, and then my illustrator. So I had a lot of Latina women participate in my, and 9 out of 11 of the people who were early readers and endorsed the book were Latina as well.
I love that.
So that was an important part of the project was to make sure that I included our voices.
Creating within our community is so important. So I love the fact that you brought in those Latina voices.
Yeah, and I feel like also we're doing all the things. And if we can support each other, again, I believe it is our assignment to do that.
Yes.
Like, why are we choosing other people? Like if there's a Latina PR coach, then obvio, we're going to work with her. Like, ¿por qué no?
Right.
And same for all the other things. Like, and I wanted a Latina editor because I was writing a lot in Spanish. In the book.
You need that cultural relevance.
I wanted someone who also understood.
What other services can people tap into you for?
People can find me on LinkedIn. So I have my LinkedIn page, Hady Méndez, under Hady Méndez. And then I have a website. And I'll give you the website for the book. It's Calladita No More. So calladitanomore.com. Pretty straightforward. And what services I provide, I do a lot of work with ERGs. So I work with ERG leaders. I do a lot of content around like conversations. I have a show on LinkedIn called Latinas Front and Center, which I really love and gives me a lot of life. And then I have a new like sort of it's kind of a newer, I would say, coaching service that I provide, and it's called Power Sessions for Mujeres.
I love it.
Power Sessions for Mujeres, and it's really supposed to be like 90 minutes breakthrough. We get through like what is holding you back, kind of like it's meant to be, if you don't have money to go to ongoing, sign up for ongoing coaching services, this is a 90-minute like breakthrough moment, and then you get a power plan at the end of it. And then you are officially, a graduate of the Power Session for Mujeres.
Hady, thank you so much for my goodie bag.
You're welcome.
It's so beautiful. I'm going to rock it on the train this afternoon. And for the book,
I love it.
I ended up getting the e-copy before the podcast, and I love it. So now that I have this, I'm going to proudly display it on my coffee table. Everybody go out and get Calladita No More, My Latina Journey and the Lessons That Shaped Me. Beautiful book. September 15th is coming out. Hady, again, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful for your time, and I wish you all the best with this launch. And I hope this opens the door for more books from you, and obviously more creative ventures.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Mujeres Create podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and don't forget to share the wisdom with other mujeres.